Have you seen that your child struggles with blending? He tries to put those letters together that are on the page, but comes out with something totally opposite or not even related, and you're just stuck to help him? Well, today you're in luck. I am going to share with you some practical tips to help your child become a better blender. There are things that you can do to help kind of provide that sensory input, but then actual practical things with the print, the letters on the page, and them actually speaking it. So stay tuned. If we haven't met, my name's Audrey from audreytutors.com, and on this channel you will find videos all about teaching reading and handwriting to your child so that they can have the skills needed to continue to advance in their learning journey. So let's go back to blending. So many times kids struggle with blending. They will have a word and they can say each sound, but then when they put it together, something else comes out. Or when they're blending, they're not quite sure how the code works enough, so they're not sure how the sounds are coming because they've been exposed so much to that one-on-one correspondence, like A is a and B is b. So then when they get to multiple letter words, they don't understand that 1, 2, 3, or 4 letters can have one sound. So without that knowledge, they can struggle. So if you have noticed that maybe your kid doesn't add sounds, but they more struggle with the phonics approach and knowing the different ways that those letters represent the sounds and vice versa, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video specifically about that, because once you can wrap your mind around that idea, it's going to really help enhance your child's reading ability. I know even as an adult, I wasn't taught those things, and I used to be that struggling reader. And once I've learned some of these things, it helps me so much to be able to attack those words more confidently because I know the different ways, and that it's not just I before, or the first vowel does the talking, or that bossy R, the bossy, or the silent E. Like, those rules fall short, and there's so much more that we need to equip our kids with at an early stage. So let me know in the comments if you want to know more about that. So that's one thing to keep an eye out that could be hindering their blending. Another thing is that they could be adding sounds or deleting sounds. And so I am going to jump onto my document camera and show you some ways of helping your child avoid those mistakes. And one thing that you want to remember is when they're struggling, have them slow down and repeat after you and say the sounds together and blend it together. So let's get on the document camera. So say they're reading the word spot. And I've had kids and they can go sp, t, sot, top. Have you had that happen? Yes. So I learned from Marnie Ginsburg over at Reading Simplified an approach called continuous blending. And this is known throughout different educators and researchers. But it's where instead of putting a gap and isolating each sound and then putting them together, you're going to do each sound and put them together as you go. And that's kind of how it gets its name, that continuous blending. So you could show the kids just the first 2 letters and see if they can put that together and say sp. And sometimes the kids can't do that. So then I will just cover this part and say, okay, what's this sound? And they'll say s, and I'll say, good job. What's this sound? P. Good. Now put s and p together. And if a child's been struggling with blending or is new at blending, this can be difficult, and they're going to go sp, sp, sp. And you will praise them for their effort, and I always have them try because trying is such a good lesson for them to develop at an early age. And then I'll say, listen to Miss Audrey. Sp, sp, sp. And then I'll have them repeat. Sp, sp. Good. Sp. Now remember sp. What's this sound? Aw. Now put sp and aw together. Spa. Good. Now remember spa. What's the sound? Now put this together. Spot. And depending on their abilities and where they're at, sometimes the challenge is for them to recall that this is spa and then add the t. Other times their working memory is still being developed and putting all the pieces together. So after they say the sound and put it together, I'll remind them. So I'll be like, okay, if we've moved to the aw, I'll say, what's sp and aw? And see if they can put that together. And there goes spa. Some kids will struggle putting those sounds together. So I will use my fingers. And so what I'll do is I'll go, okay, say s, say p, p. Okay, glue them together. Sp. And then we'll do our next sound. Okay, so we have sp. What's our next sound? Oh, sorry, my green screen. Right there. Ah, good. Now say ah. Sp. Ah. Glue it together. Spot. Spa. And then we're going to do the last one. And with this approach, I have some of my kids with just some learning disabilities and lower processing. Once we do it a few times together, they will start doing it on their own, and that helps them blend more successfully when they're reading. So you can apply that tip. So then here's the same thing for the consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, and you could just go one by one. So let me show you how this would be done again. So we would just cover it up and see if they could put those two. And say they say k-er, you just say glue it together. And if they still struggle and they go k-er, 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 you go say k-er, glue it together. Ker. And I like to move my hands out to make it that one continuous. And that seems to help my students be able to catch on to what we're doing. And then I'll go here. And they might say I. I'll be like, good try. Now say it. And then can you put it together? Give them the opportunity. And then say, okay, remember this is ker, and put it. And they may put k-er, I, k-er, I, k-er, I. And then you go kri, kri. And then as they hear it, something about when they hear it and they try to do it, eventually they're going to be able to do it more smoothly. I know always whenever I start out with a new student, it can be pretty painful in the beginning, and you're like, oh, are they going to catch on? And then, but within a few lessons, you're going to start seeing them catch on more and more with those blends. And then so you have the curry, and then they add this sound, Chris, and then this sound, and they can say p, crisp. And some kids, you can just reveal it, and they can just put it together. Others, you're going to have to do that more support with the finger support and the echoing support. Now, say you have the 2-letter words. So say they look at this and they go g-s on the first time. You would praise them for that good effort if they go g-s, and then they will be a little confused because they're not quite hearing it. And you would just point to these 2 letters and say, this is g. Can you do it? And then you would see. And if not, you would just go here. Okay, what's this sound? Remember, that says g. Good. And then what's this sound? Ga. What's this sound? S. Gas. And then you'd have them say it. And then build would be the same thing. You would just point out if they were wanting to add that and just say, this is b. B. O. D. Build. And this is exposing them going about this without doing like all the lessons of why. It just shows them the different combinations of those letters. Now, say you have a big word in your book and they're struggling reading it. I find it helpful to pull it out of the book and make it big and go ahead and chunk it up for the kids. And then I'd have them, okay, can you read the first chunk? And I call the syllables chunks. And they would say in. Or if they had trouble, we would do the same thing that we did with the CVC words. In. Okay, now remember in, we're going to go here. And then I'd have them do this side. G, gr. And then they may say eh. And I'll be like, that's not eh. Say e, gree. And here's the key. Now they're going to put the first and second chunk together. They're going to go in, gree. And you may have to model that. Remember, in, gree, and have them practice that muscle movement with their mouth and getting those multiple syllables in. And then you would reveal the second chunk. Okay, what's this sound? D. They may say I, they may say I, and you just say, that says E, D, E, D. Okay, you remember this part? Ingree, and you just correct where it's needed. Ingredients. Ingredients. And so if they struggle, you're going to give that input. If they're reading and they can see that this is ents, you let them say ents. And then you put it together and you read the word ingredients. So real quick, we're almost done. I would have my book. And so you can cut out a little piece of paper and make like a little window here. I sometimes just use my fingers to help show the kids what each sound. And so you could do the same concept within the book. So you would have these two sounds, tur, and then you'd have this sound and see if they can figure it out. And they may say ah, you say good try, and say, and then you would tell them say oh, and then they would put the tur and the o together, troll. And then what's this last sound? Oh, troll. And if they go you say nope. Remember, those make one sound, oh, and then they can read it, troll. And the same thing for like here, like for breakfast, you could chunk that up. So you could do here, and then say they mess up and they say E, and they say break, and they can't self-correct yet. You just say, that says eh, break, and then you could go here, fest, and they would probably say ah, and you would just say eh, fest, breakfast, and then they can read it. If, depending on the student, I will sometimes have them try to retrieve the sound. So say it's an OW and they say ow, I'll be like, what else can the OW say? And see if they can do it. If it's a student that's overly whelmed easily or hasn't been exposed to all those sounds, I will just give the information, because the biggest thing is giving them the information they don't know and having them practice. And remember, one simple way is to have them use their fingers and put it together, but you want to make sure they're looking at those letters too, so they're making that connection of how reading and blending all works together. So for example, say you were reading the word, they were reading the word eat and they were struggling with it. You could say, okay, what's the first sound? And they could say e, and then what's the second sound? T, and then put it together, eat, and then they would read their word. So that is those are some simple tips and tricks on how to help your child blend. If you would like some more support or have some questions and need some resources, or your child just needs some extra support in blending and readings to get him up to the next level, be sure to click the link below to schedule your free consultation, and we can work on some of those skills within that first assessment. So I look forward to hearing from you. Once again, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified when new videos come out. Apply these strategies, and I hope they help you help your child become a good reader. Happy learning, and see you next time. Bye.